So we're continuing our hike along the grade of the Gunflint Lake Superior. We are just to the west of the remaining rail location, and so we're going to be making our way in a southwesterly direction towards the former site of a extremely large wood corduroy trestle. So you can see the grade here. You can see that our elevation is changing here. You can see that we are starting to climb as the grade here makes its turn towards the south. You can see what looks like a very, very large dugout area. I'm sure this area was used to build this embankment here. And so you can see as we kind of pan to the south here the reason for this embankment and then the subsequent corduroy trestle. You can see the ridges on the south side of Gunflint Lake here. They sit approximately 200 feet above the level of the lake, and so there is quite an extreme elevation change, which necessitated the fairly steep construction here. And so you can see this embankment becomes much more pronounced now. You can see again here on the south side, pardon me, the east side. And so as we arrive at this spot here, this is where, for the most part, the corduroy trestle would have commenced. And it would have climbed up to the top of this ridge here, part of the way. And then there is a large rock cut on the other side as it passes over the summit of the ridge. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to make our way along the side and along the top of this former trestle. So we're down here on the east side of the trestle, and we're going to make our way southward a little bit here, walking alongside the remains of this corduroy trestle. You can see somewhat of the height of the trestle itself. Sits approximately at points 25 feet above the valley. You can see here maybe an old relic. So there is a shovel that's been left behind here. Again, we're unsure of the date. And so if you can imagine here, all of these logs stacked one on top of each other to form this trestle. It was quite an amazing structure. I had the privilege of seeing it a couple of times. The first time was back in 1997 on my first ever visit. And there is a video, the only one that I know exists, of the trestle that I shot at that time. And so what we're going to do is we're going to work our way up to the top and walk the length of it until we get to the end of the corduroy section. This must have been just some huge effort. And you can see the slope of the sides here. We're gonna walk our way up. You can get an idea of the grade. No wonder they needed a Lima locomotive. No train could go up this type of grade. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make our way southward along the top of the trestle and get a little bit of a sense of what it would have been like. A good chunk of this trestle is now gone. Unfortunately, this area was hit by a forest fire in 2007. That was preceded by an immensely strong windstorm in 1999 that left millions of trees blown down in the area. And in 2007, there were some very, very dry conditions, and a very large fire broke out called the Ham Lake Fire. Burned millions and millions of acres of land, including the area around this trestle. The logs that made up this corduroy trestle caught on fire and they began to smolder. And unfortunately, the fire burned deep inside the corduroy logs, and the fire, which happened in May, was still burning through the winter of 2008. And so the United States Forest Service was forced to come in here and dig holes and blast the trestle apart to put out the smoldering fire inside. And so this very, very unique piece of engineering, unfortunately, came to a very, very sad end as a result of that fire. Again, it was an amazing piece of engineering. You'll need to be sure you check out the 1997 video to see what it would have looked like. You can see kind of our height here above the valley. The grade would have been a little bit taller. You're going to see that in 1 second here as we make our way up. So at this point here, the top part of the corduroy trestle, we would have been approximately 25 feet above the valley floor. And then from this point on, the railway would have continued via a rock cut over the top of the ridge and southward towards Crab Lake. So we're here on the grade of the Gunflint and Lake Superior. We are just south of Gunflint Lake. We are alongside the Crab River, and I am standing on the top end of what used to be the large corduroy trestle. And so I'm on the southern end of the trestle, so I'm approximately 200 feet away or so from the camera location. And just to give you a perspective on the length of this trestle, obviously it's difficult to see now with all the new growth forest that's coming up, but certainly you can see the height above the grade. In terms of the elevation change in the railway line, and then also the distance that this corduroy trestle would have crossed. And so you could imagine it would have been quite an undertaking for the trains to travel down this grade toward Gunflint Lake, especially loaded with several cars of logs. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be heading our way further south and traveling through a rock cut that is just directly behind me.